I was unloading groceries from my beat-up Honda when she strutted over, her heels clicking on the pavement like a metronome. Evelyn Harper, the HOA president, gave me a once-over, her lips curling as if I'd just tracked mud into her pristine world. "Renters like you don't get how property values work around here," she said, one hand on her hip, her salon-perfect hair catching the sunlight. "What you didn't know, I didn't just own my house, I held the mortgages on every single one of her properties. 5, to be exact. And by the end of this saga, she'd be clinging to the wreckage of her empire. I never planned to be the guy who'd take down the queen of Willow Creek, our fancy neighborhood with its oak-lined streets and manicured lawns. 6 months earlier, I'd sold my fintech startup for a tidy sum, not enough to make Forbes, but enough to buy a house in this upscale community and live comfortably. After years of renting shoebox apartments and funneling every dime into my company, I wanted roots. Willow Creek seemed perfect, despite the realtor's warning about the HOA's iron grip. I figured, how bad could it be? I'd build a business from nothing. A few nosy neighbors weren't going to scare me. The day I moved in, the sky was a crisp blue, and the neighbors seemed friendly. Tom and Lisa Carter, the couple next door, dropped off a peach cobbler and invited me to a neighborhood barbecue. "Most folks here are great," Lisa said, her smile a little tight. "Just steer clear of Evelyn Harper. She's intense." Tom nodded, quickly changing the topic to the community pool. I didn't think much of it. I'd handled tough clients. Surely Evelyn couldn't be that bad. I kept a low profile that first week, unpacking boxes, setting up my home office, and DIYing my 5-year-old Honda. I didn't care for flashy cars or designer clothes. Me parents taught me character trumps possessions. But my understated VYB made me a target. At the barbecue, Evelyn zeroed in on me like a hawk. She was everything you'd expect: perfectly styled hair, a dress that screamed money, and a smirk that said she owned the place. "You must be Ethan Caldwell," she said, her voice syrupy but sharp. "I noticed your mailbox isn't the approved shade of Willow Creek teal. And those garbage cans? They're an inch too sizable from the street." I smiled, trying to keep things friendly. "I'll fix the cans," I said. But she wasn't done. "And that car? Most homeowners here drive something classier." I shrugged. "It gets me around." Her eyes narrowed. "Renters often don't grasp the standards of a premium community like ours. Their washer assumption I couldn't possibly own my home." I let slide, grabbing a soda and moving on. Sometimes silence is the best comeback. But Evelyn wasn't one to let things go. Later, she accidentally bumped into me, splashing red wine on my shirt. "Oh my," she gasped, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't worry, it's probably one of those cheap shirts renters wear." The crowd went quiet, but I just dabbed at the stain and said it was no big deal. Her frown deepened. She wanted a reaction, and I wasn't giving her one. After the barbecue, Tom and Lisa invited me over for coffee. "Evelyn's been brutal lately," Tom said. "She's driven out 3 families in 2 years with fines and harassment." Lisa nodded. "The Garcias left after she fined them thousands for planting wildflowers." I was stunned. "Why doesn't anyone stop her?" Tom sighed. "She's got the HOA board in her pocket. Cross her, and she makes your life hell." That night, I dug into Evelyn's background. She was a widow, or so she claimed, with wealth from her late husband, a big-shot lawyer. She owned 5 properties in Willow Creek and had ruled the HOA for years. But as I sifted through property records, I stumbled on something wild. Through my startup's acquisition by a larger firm, I'd indirectly become the mortgage holder for all of Evelyn's properties. She was 3 months behind on 2 of them, teetering on default. Fate had dealt me a royal flush. I just had to decide whether to play it. The next week, I got my first HOA violation. My mailbox was one shade off. A DULA 100 fine and a 72-hour deadline to repaint. It was the same color as everyone else's, but this wasn't about rules. It was Evelyn flexing. I consulted my old CFO, Nathan Brooks, who confirmed the mortgage connection. "You're basically her landlord," he said, chuckling. "But be careful, she won't go down easy." He was right. The violations piled up. My grass was too tall, my hose was sizable, My car was parked an inch too far from the curb. Evelyn even snapped photos of my house, and neighbors said she was asking about my schedule. I wasn't ready to play my trump card yet. Instead, I called my friend Sarah Mitchell, a real estate lawyer. You could call her loans if she defaults, Sarah said. But is that who you are? I didn't want to ruin Evelyn, just stop her reign of terror. Meanwhile, she escalated, pushing new HOA rules targeting MEP permits for home offices, limits on VY siters. At the meeting, she stared me down, calling out transient rental types. When I questioned her, she snapped, "Some residents might be happier in a less refined community." Gasps filled the room, but no one spoke up. Fear kept them silent. Then Sarah called with a bombshell. The HOA's finances were a mess, with due loss $70,000 in undocumented expenses. I got access to the records after some arm twisting and found fake landscaping contracts, shady legal fees, and due law $150,000 in fines with no clear destination. Former residents told me Evelyn had targeted them, forcing sales to her brother-in-law, Victor Harper, who flipped the homes for huge profits. This wasn't just bullying, it was fraud. Evelyn fought back dirty. My water got cut off twice. My trees were poisoned with herbicide. My security cameras caught her and a stranger in my yard at 2 a.m. The police, wary of Evelyn's sway, dragged their feet. But Clara Evans, a 78-year-old resident, wasn't scared. Over tea, she dropped a bombshell. Evelyn's husband, Richard Harper, wasn't dead. He'd fled after embezzling millions, and Evelyn was still in touch, calling him R in secret backyard chats. Then my bank flagged an unauthorized attempt to refinance my mortgage, a company tied to Victor. The stakes were skyrocketing. The final straw was an envelope on my doorstep, a photo of Evelyn, Richard, and Nathan Brooks, my CFO. A note read, "You think you know everything? The game's just begun." Nathan had been feeding Evelyn info, betraying me from the start. When I confronted him, he'd already skipped town. I knew it was time to face Evelyn head-on. I walked into the HOA office during her hours, shutting the door. "We need to talk about your mortgages," I said, dropping a folder with her payment records. "I hold all 5, and you're behind." Her face went pale. "Impossible," she whispered, but she knew it was true. I laid out my terms. Resign from the HOA, repay the fines, and leave Willow Creek in 90 days. Or I'll foreclose and hand your fraud, EVY Denke, to the cops, including your chats with Richard. She tried to bribe me, then lashed out. "You're just a tech kid with new money. I built this community." I stayed calm. "You built fear. You've got 48 hours. Evelyn didn't fight back right away. At the next HOA meeting, she apologized and shelved her rules, but I knew it was a ploy. Whispers spread. She claimed I was bankrupt, my company a scam. My business contacts ghosted me. Nathan had poisoned my reputation. At my company, he pushed to cut me from a mortgage portfolio, but I exposed his ties to the Harpers. Both of us got suspended pending an investigation, stripping my leverage temporarily. Evelyn threw a La VYSH party, toasting her VY Tory, but I'd already backed up the mortgage docs and rallied neighbors like Tom, Lisa, Clara, and Rachel Lee, who'd suffered under Evelyn. An anonymous email arrived. "Richard's cutting Evelyn loose. Here's his plan." The decrypted files showed Richard MOVYing assets offshore, planning to ditch Evelyn and vanish with their profits. Before I could act, my company cleared me, firing Nathan and restoring my control. Detective Mark Thompson called, now taking Clara's claims about Richard seriously. Then my car's brakes were caught on camera. "This is attempted murder," Mark said. I invited Evelyn to my house, saying we'd negotiate. She walked in, smirking, but froze when she saw the neighbors. One by one, they shared their stories. Fines, threats, ruined lives. Clara mentioned Richard, and Evelyn's mask cracked. I showed her a flowchart of her scheme properties, shell companies, stolen funds. "Richard's betraying you," I said, playing an audio of him and Victor planning to leave her holding the bag. Evelyn collapsed, whispering he wouldn't. Mark stepped in, reading her rights. Then Richard called, offering a bribe. "You don't know what you're holding, Ethan," he said. Evelyn begged me not to trust him. Mark recorded it, tracing the call. Evelyn cut a deal. Full cooperation, resignation, and restitution. She kept her main house, avoiding foreclosure. Richard was nabbed on a Mediterranean yacht. Victor turned himself in, and Nathan took a plea. Their multi-state fraud ring, worth due law $20 million, unraveled. Evelyn testified, got probation, and sold her assets to repay V.Y. Timms. I became HOA president, slashing petty rules and ensuring transparency. Victims got settlements, some moved back. Willow Creek bloomed, kids played, neighbors bonded, and diversity grew. I see Evelyn at the coffee shop sometimes, her eyes down. "Why didn't you ruin me?" she asked once. "I don't need to," I said. From my porch, sipping a beer that would have got me fined, I watch kids run free. Winning isn't about crushing enemies, it's about building something better. My new company funds housing protection, turning pain into purpose. So what do you think? Was I too soft on Evelyn, or was justice enough? Should I have pushed for prison time, or was letting her live with her choices the real punishment? And what about Richard? Did he deserve to be the fall guy? Or was Evelyn just as guilty? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild stories. Where are you watching from? Let's get this debate going.